When we're on stage, one of the things that we want the most, obviously, is for the crowd, the audience, to be engaged with us when we're on stage, right? And we know they're engaged with us because they'll give us signals. And so the question is, how do we get that engagement? How do we get the audience to engage with us? Hey everyone, Devon Brown here, and in today's video, I'm gonna share with you 11 tips to help you maintain audience engagement. So when we're on stage, one of the things that we want the most, obviously, is for the crowd, the audience, to be engaged with us when we're on stage, right? And we know they're engaged with us because they'll give us signals. They'll make eye contact with us. When we move around the stage, their eyes will follow. When we make a joke or say something smart-alecky, their facial expressions will change. They'll grin, they'll smirk, they'll laugh, and when we ask them to respond or answer a question, they will do so, hopefully, quickly and loudly and excitedly, right? All of those are signals of engagement. And so the question is, how do we get that engagement? How do we get the audience to engage with us? Well, today I'm going to share with you 11 ways to make it happen. So let's jump right into it. So, way number one to maintain audience engagement is to measure the audience's energy level, and then when you come on stage, you come on stage 1 to 2 levels above where they are. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. I actually discovered this back when I was a Taekwondo instructor years ago. One of the groups of people that I would teach were little kids. We called them tiny tigers. They were 4, 5, and 6 years old. And as you can imagine, keeping little kids engaged can sometimes be challenging, but what I discovered was that if I was the most exciting and energetic thing in the room, I could keep them engaged with me. So wherever they were energy-wise, I would come in above that. Now, my guess is that you're not teaching 5-year-olds Taekwondo. You're probably talking to adults on stage, right? So in this instance, what you wanna do is you wanna say, hey, where is the room energy level-wise? On a scale of 1 to 10, let's say they're at a 3, and what you wanna do is you wanna come in 1 to 2 levels above that. So if it's a scale of 1 to 10 and they're at a 3, you're gonna come in at a 4 or a 5. Now the reason you're gonna come in at a 4 or a 5 and not a 9 or a 10 is because you don't wanna blow them out of the water, right? You wanna be the most exciting thing in the room, but you don't wanna come in with so much energy that the audience is like, whoa, slow down there, Tonto. That's a bit too much. Turn that down. You need to take it down from an 11, right? So if the audience is at a 9, then yes, come in at a 10. But if the audience is at a 3, then you should come in at a 4 or a 5 energy level wise. That way, you're the most exciting thing in the room, so you get the engagement that you want, but you're not coming in so high that you blow them out of the water. So tip number 1 for maintaining audience engagement is measure the energy level of the audience in the room and then come in 1 to 2 levels above that. All right. Tip number 2 for maintaining audience engagement is to use story and share personal experiences. So story, as I'm sure you know, is basically hardwired into our DNA as human beings, right? So before YouTube, before social media, before TV, before radio, before all that stuff, there was human beings sitting around fires sharing story, right? And when you were small, in all likelihood, and you were going to bed, your parents read you a story. So when somebody starts off telling a story, then it's basically hardwired in our DNA to listen and engage with that story. So one of the things you absolutely want to do to maintain engagement is use story. And the other side of that coin is to share personal experiences. You know, it's easier to engage with someone when you feel a connection to them. And one of the best ways that we can share connection with each other is to share personal stories. So tip number 2 for maintaining audience engagement is to use story and to share personal experiences. All right, tip number 3 for maintaining audience engagement is to change your voice tone, inflection, and speed. So have you ever seen somebody on stage and they're monotone and they don't move? And it's like, do something. What? Right? So that's boring. Don't do that. That is a no. All right? Don't stand still. Don't be monotone unless you have to for some reason. I don't know. My happy ass is just running around the damn thing. We'll get to that later. Anyway, what I was saying was that one of the ways to keep your audience engaged is to change voice tone and inflection and speed and volume. So for example, if I'm telling a story, I might slow down if it's a serious part of the story. But if it's an exciting part of the story, I might speed up and I might get louder. One of the best compliments that I actually ever got when I was on stage was I got off stage once and this woman says to me, she says, "Devon, thank you for so much for taking us on that roller coaster ride." And what she meant by that was that I did a good job of changing the tone and the speed and the volume and all that stuff. And so she was like, "Oh, you kept me engaged the whole time because you were constantly switching things up." So I hope that makes sense. So number 3, change voice tone, inflection, and speed. All right, tip number 4 for maintaining audience engagement is to use open loops. All right, now that's like an NLP term, so let me just break that down into layman's English. So use cliffhangers, right? Like tell the first part of a story and then don't finish it so that there is this sense of, oh my gosh, what is the end of that, right? Like when you watch the end of a TV show and then they don't tell you and then you gotta wait till the next episode to see what happened, that's like an open loop, right? We want the loop to be closed, and until it's closed, we have this insatiable desire to make it get closed. So one of the things that you can do is you can use open loops, you can create curiosity, you can tell them the first half of something and then actually reveal it later on. Stuff like that creates curiosity and it does a great job of helping people stay engaged. So tip number 4, use open loops. Tip number 5 for maintaining audience engagement is to get them laughing. We all love to laugh, and this tip it's actually easier than you think, right? So some people are naturally funny and some people are naturally not funny. So if you're naturally not funny, don't worry about it because you can still get them laughing. Specifically, one of the best ways that I found to engage with the audience is to get them laughing early on. And one of the best ways I think to get them laughing early on is to just do something like insert a funny slide into your presentation right off the bat. So let's say I'm giving a talk on dog training, right? What I would do is I would go find a funny dog training meme, right? Maybe a dog is, attacking somebody, and I would start off my presentation by just showing that meme. Right? That would be my opening slide because we already know the meme is funny because we found it because we did a search for funny dog training memes, like literally just do a search for that. And then we take that and we stick that in our presentation and voila, you have a predictable laugh early on in your presentation, and that laughter helps the engagement. So the more humor that you can add to your presentation or to your talk or to whatever you're doing, the more you can get people smiling and laughing, the better off you will be. And if you ever have a chance, go and just Google, ways to add humor to a presentation, right? And just, take some of that stuff. All right, way number 6 to maintain audience engagement is to be vulnerable. One of the things that helps us connect and engage is when we see the real person who is on stage, right? When we see that the human being on stage is in fact a human being and not some high and mighty guru. So when you're on stage, one of the things that you want to do to maintain audience engagement is you want to be vulnerable. Now let me be clear, this does not mean turn your talk into a sad fest. That's silly. Don't do that. Don't go in there and just be like, I'm gonna bare my soul and bare everything. That's not being vulnerable. That's nonsense. But it's what I like to call authentic vulnerability. If I'm being vulnerable to try to, get a certain outcome, then that's not genuine or authentic vulnerability. If I'm being vulnerable because it's legitimately part of the story or part of the thing I'm sharing or something that the audience needs to know, then absolutely share it. It's okay to let yourself be in a light that's less than perfect because you're human and none of us are perfect. So tip number 6, be vulnerable. Show them the imperfect parts of you. All right. Tip number 7 for maintaining audience engagement. Get off the stage and get into the crowd. Okay, back in school, when your teacher started walking around, right? When you're taking tests or something and your teacher started walking around, how did you feel, right? Oh crap, the teacher, they might. Yeah, you got engaged real quick. You were paying attention real quick. When you get off stage and you interact with the crowd, a few things happen. Number 1, you become less of some, infallible high and mighty guru, and you become more of a friend, more of a comrade, right? Because you're amongst them. Number 2, you have the ability to actually connect with people on an individual basis because you're walking right by them. You can high five them, right? And when you walk near them, rest assured they're going to be way more engaged. So one of the things that it's like I'm on stage so much that at this point in my career, it feels funny to stay on stage. Like the first thing I do when I get called on stage is I go on stage and then I just run off the stage and just go into the audience, right? And just go engage with them. So tip number 7 is to get off the stage and get into the crowd. It's one of my favorite ways to maintain audience engagement. Okay. Tip number 8 for maintaining audience engagement is to get your audience to participate. Whenever you're on stage, you're supposed to be having a conversation. Now, given when you're on stage, you're gonna be the one talking the most, right? Or maybe your stage is a YouTube video or your stage is your Instagram, right? Whatever it is, you wanna find ways to get your audience engaged. So if my stage is my YouTube video, I might be like, hey, leave a comment below or type in below if this has happened to you. Or if I'm on stage, if I'm like physically in person, I'll get my audience engaged with participation by doing things like call and response. I'll be like, show me your hand if such and such has happened, and they'll raise their hand. Or stand up, face your partner and high five somebody, and they'll high five somebody, right? Anything you can do to get them to participate in the conversation, right? Hey, does anybody have a question? Anything you can do to get them to participate in the conversation is going to help engagement. So tip number 8, get them to participate. All right, just a few more. Tip number 9 for maintaining audience engagement. WIIFM, what's in it for me? Now, this is an old speaker adage, and here's the thing that you need to understand. WIIFM, like I just said, stands for what's in it for me. That is the question that we human beings are always thinking to ourselves whenever somebody else is talking, whether we're watching a TV commercial or we're at a play or wherever we are, we're always wondering, well, what's in this for me, right? What's in it for me? So if you can answer that question for your audience and let them know what's in it for them, then they're gonna be more engaged with you. If it's clear to them what's in it for me, then they're going to be more engaged with you. They're gonna wanna listen. They're gonna wanna give you their attention. So remember, tip number 9, WIIFM, what's in it for me? And that dovetails wonderfully into tip number 10 for maintaining audience engagement, because tip number 10 for maintaining audience engagement is to speak to their interests. This is about them. This is about the audience, right? That's who this is about. So you need to speak to their interests, not yours. If something is exciting for me and you don't give a flip, you're gone. But if I speak to something that's exciting to you, then it's really easy for you to be like, yep, yeah, right, because I'm speaking to your interests. So tip number 10, speak to their interests. And finally, tip number 11 for maintaining audience engagement is to remember what the audience really wants. And that is authenticity. Authenticity can be felt. Authenticity, being truly who you are and not needing to be anybody else, and being able to share your heart and speak from your essence and your truth and in the most honest way possible, that is what connects human beings to human beings. So the more authentic you can be, the more engaged your audience is gonna be. I gotta tell you, one of my favorite things about seeing somebody who is truly authentic on stage is that when I'm watching them be authentic on stage, it gives me permission to be more authentic as well. And when you're on stage, you standing in your authenticity and being you, that is going to give your audience permission to stand in their authenticity, and they're going to appreciate that. So, tip number 11 for maintaining audience engagement is to remember what the audience really wants, and that is not for you to be perfect, but instead, they want your authenticity. So there you have it, 11 tips to maintaining audience engagement. I hope you found at least one of these helpful. I hope you can take at least one of these tips and go implement them in your next speech or in your next video or whatever the heck it is you're doing. And if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, share, let me know, throw some sexy on it, high five, give it to your mom, and them, something like that. All right, I'm out. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Hey, Devon here. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and connect with me on social media. And if you enjoyed this content, be sure to share it with your friends.